Get this. NASA is making oxygen on Mars right now.
Wow.
Yeah, it sounds like science fiction.
It does.
But it's actually happening.
really incredible.
Just a taste of what's going on in Martian exploration these days. It's unbelievable.
It really is remarkable how far we've come.
Welcome to Xul Podcast, Shooting the Reality.
That show.
That takes you on a deep dive
Into some fascinating topics.
I'm James Carroll.
And I'm Emily Alora.
Today we're strapping on our spacesuits
Ooh.
for a journey to the Red Planet with our deep dive into life on Mars discoveries and future exploration.
We've got some amazing source material to unpack. Can't wait.
For a long time, Mars was this cold, dry, lifeless planet, in our minds at least.
Right.
But over the past few decades, that's changed so much.
Dramatically.
Starting with that little Sojourner rover. You remember that thing?
Oh, of course. 1997.
They've revealed a much more dynamic and intriguing world.
One of the biggest shifts was the discovery of evidence for past liquid water on Mars.
Whoa, hold on.
Think about that.
Rivers and lakes.
Maybe even oceans.
On Mars. Billions of years ago.
That completely changes how we think about the planet.
It really does.
And its potential for life, past life.
Exactly.
What were some of those missions that led to this breakthrough? You know, the ones that really made scientists rethink everything.
Well, one that comes to mind is the Mars exploration rovers.
Spirit and Opportunity.
Yes, they landed on opposite sides of Mars in 2004.
Wow.
And both found compelling evidence of a much wetter past.
Okay, so give us an example.
Spirit found minerals that form in the presence of water.
No way.
In Gusev Crater, and then you have Opportunity on the other side of the planet.
Right.
It discovered what looked like ancient shorelines in Meridiani Planum.
So we're not just talking about theories here. This is hard data from rovers on the ground.
Exactly, and then Curiosity came along.
Curiosity, that was 2012, right?
Yeah, it landed in Gale Crater.
Why there?
Specifically chosen, it contained layered sedimentary rocks
Interesting.
that could tell a story about Mars's ancient environment. Fascinating. And what did they find?
Even more compelling evidence of past water.
Like what?
Rounded pebbles, those could only have been formed by flowing water.
Wow.
It also detected organic molecules,
Which are?
the building blocks of life as we know it.
Okay, so from these early missions, we went from Mars is dry and dusty to, wow, there was serious water here billions of years ago.
A complete paradigm shift.
And that opens up the big question.
The question that drives so much of our current exploration.
Was there ever life on Mars?
And that brings us to Perseverance,
The star of the show right now.
which landed in Jezero Crater in 2021.
Okay, so remind us, why Jezero Crater?
Because it was once a lake bed fed by a river delta.
Interesting.
The perfect place to look for signs of ancient life.
So what makes Jezero Crater so special in the search for ancient life? I mean, other missions have found evidence of water, but what's different about this location?
It's like a giant time capsule. The delta deposits there could contain layers of sediment that captured organic molecules and other potential biosignatures from billions of years ago.
Wow, like pages in a history book.
And Perseverance is reading those pages
Looking for clues.
about whether life ever existed on Mars.
Incredible. And Perseverance isn't just looking for evidence.
No.
It's collecting samples to bring back to Earth, right?
You got it. The Mars Sample Return Mission.
A collaboration between NASA and the European Space Agency.
They're planning to retrieve those samples and bring them back to Earth for detailed analysis.
Wow, imagine the discoveries we could make by studying actual pieces of Mars up close.
It's mind-blowing.
It sounds like these samples could be game changers in our understanding of Mars and the possibility of life beyond Earth.
Absolutely, but Perseverance isn't the only technological marvel exploring Mars right now.
You're talking about Ingenuity.
The little helicopter that's been buzzing around.
I mean, we're flying helicopters on another planet.
It's crazy, right?
It seems like something out of a movie.
Ingenuity was originally meant to be a technology demonstration.
To see if powered flight was even possible.
In Mars's thin atmosphere, it exceeded all expectations.
Wow.
Completed over 50 flights.
50 flights already.
And scouting terrain for Perseverance.
Not just about the pictures, though, is it?
No, Ingenuity provides a completely different perspective on the Martian landscape.
How so?
It can fly over obstacles that would be impassable for Perseverance,
Oh, right, like a scout.
giving us access to areas we couldn't explore otherwise.
So we've got rovers digging into the Martian surface.
A helicopter scouting from above.
Plans to bring Martian samples back to Earth. It's amazing.
We're entering a whole new era of Mars exploration.
And NASA has even bigger plans for the future.
20-year strategy.
20 years.
Packed with goals that sound straight out of science fiction.
Okay, let's talk about that 20-year plan. What are some of the key things NASA hopes to achieve in the coming decades?
It's built around three main themes. Exploring the potential for Martian life, supporting human exploration of Mars, and discovering the dynamic nature of Mars.
Wow, so each of these themes is interconnected,
Yeah.
and together they paint a picture of a future,
Where humans are not just visiting Mars.
but actually living and working there.
That's the goal.
That sounds incredible. So where do we start with this ambitious plan?
Well, the search for life, past or present, remains at the forefront of Mars exploration.
Right.
Future missions will build upon the discoveries of Perseverance
Looking for those biosignatures
in different regions of Mars.
and investigating how Martian habitability might have changed over time.
Exactly.
And this is where the concept of special regions comes in, right? Places on Mars that might require extra care to avoid contamination from Earth.
Exactly. Planetary protection is a top priority.
We don't want to mess things up.
We need to be incredibly careful not to introduce Earth-based life to Mars, especially if we're trying to determine if life ever existed there independently.
Imagine the confusion if we found life on Mars.
And then realize later that it was just contamination we brought with us from Earth.
That would be a disaster.
We have to be extremely cautious.
So it's not just about scientific discovery.
Right.
It's also about being responsible explorers.
Absolutely.
And protecting the potential for life on other worlds.
It's a huge responsibility.
I'm eager to hear more about those ethical considerations
Sounds good to me. We'll also delve into the challenges and opportunities of sending humans to Mars.
and how those missions could transform our understanding of both Mars and ourselves.
It's going to be fascinating.
It's an incredibly exciting time.
Think about it. We're talking about establishing a human presence on another planet.
It raises some serious questions, though.
Yeah.
We touched on planetary protection,
Right.
but what are some other ethical considerations we need to think about?
As we venture further into Mars exploration, well, one of the biggest is about resource utilization. As we start thinking about human settlements,
Right.
we need to consider how we'll use Martian resources.
And the impacts that will have.
Yeah, what impact that will have on the environment.
That's a good point.
Is it ethical to extract water ice from the Martian poles, for example,
Right.
if it could potentially deplete a vital resource?
For future generations of Martians, yeah. It's a good question.
It's a big one.
We're not just talking about sending a few astronauts for a quick visit.
No, not at all.
We're talking about potentially altering the Martian landscape
And
in significant ways.
we have a responsibility to think long term.
About the consequences of our actions, absolutely.
And then there's the question of who gets to go to Mars,
And who gets to make the decisions?
about how Mars is explored and settled.
Exactly.
Will it be a global effort with equitable representation from all nations?
Or will it be dominated by a few wealthy countries or corporations?
That's a tough one.
Tough questions.
And I imagine they'll generate a lot of debate.
As we get closer to actually sending humans,
We'll need to find ways to balance the scientific goals
with the ethical considerations, right?
plus impacting a pristine environment.
And potentially altering the course of Martian history if we discover evidence of past life.
It's a balancing act.
For sure. Let's switch gears for a minute
Okay.
and talk about the potential for actually finding life on Mars.
All right.
You mentioned those Martian samples Perseverance is collecting.
Yes.
What kind of insights are scientists hoping to gain when those samples are returned to Earth?
Well, I think it's important to remember studying rocks and soil on Mars, even with Perseverance's sophisticated instruments,
Right.
it's still limited.
Compared to what we can do in labs here on Earth
Exactly. We have much more powerful tools and techniques.
to analyze those samples,
The chemical and isotopic composition of those samples.
which could tell us a lot,
Whether those organic molecules came from biological processes.
or from something else entirely.
Right.
So bringing those samples back to Earth could potentially answer the question of whether life ever existed on Mars.
Once and for all.
It's certainly possible. And even if those samples don't reveal definitive proof of past life,
Yeah.
they could still provide incredible insights into the early history of Mars.
How habitable the planet was billions of years ago.
And those insights could help us understand the conditions that led to the emergence of life on Earth.
And perhaps even inform our search for life on other planets.
Okay, let's talk about the practicalities of actually getting humans to Mars.
Right.
It's one thing to send robots,
Right.
but sending humans is a whole different ballgame.
What are some of the biggest challenges we need to overcome? Well, for starters, The journey to Mars is long and arduous.
Yeah, how long are we talking?
About 6 to 8 months with current technology.
Wow.
And that's just one way.
So astronauts will be exposed to prolonged periods of microgravity,
And cosmic radiation.
which can have serious health consequences.
We're not just talking about building a bigger rocket.
Right.
We're talking about developing new technologies to protect astronauts.
From the hazards of deep space travel.
Exactly. We need to develop more efficient propulsion systems
To reduce travel time.
and advanced shielding and medical countermeasures.
To mitigate the risks of radiation exposure.
It's a huge undertaking.
And then there's the challenge of surviving on Mars once you get there.
Right. The atmosphere is thin. There's no liquid water on the surface.
And the temperature can fluctuate wildly.
It's a harsh environment.
Not exactly welcoming.
We'll need to develop habitats
To provide a safe and sustainable living environment for humans,
with systems to recycle air, water, and waste,
we'll also need to find ways to produce food on Mars,
perhaps using hydroponics.
or other innovative agricultural techniques. We need to be self-sufficient.
If we want to establish a permanent presence on Mars.
Absolutely, and that's where in-situ resource utilization comes in.
In situ resource utilization.
ISRU.
Okay, what is that?
It's all about using resources found on Mars
Interesting.
to support human exploration and settlement,
So instead of shipping everything we need from Earth,
which would be incredibly expensive and impractical.
we can learn to live off the land, Martian style.
Exactly, we can extract water ice from the Martian poles,
Okay.
or from subsurface aquifers, we can use the Martian atmosphere, which is mostly carbon dioxide,
Right.
to produce oxygen for breathing and methane for fuel.
Wow. And we can even use Martian regolith
The loose rock and soil on the surface.
to make building materials.
That's right.
That's amazing. It sounds like ISRU is essential for making a long-term human presence on Mars feasible.
It's a game changer. The research and development being done in this area is incredible.
Like what kind of stuff?
Advancements in 3D printing, robotics, and biotechnology.
All contributing to our ability to utilize Martian resources.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground here.
From the ethical considerations of Mars exploration,
To the technological challenges of sending humans to the red planet,
there's one more aspect of this story we need to explore.
which is
The social and cultural implications of becoming a multiplanetary species.
imagine a future where humans aren't confined to Earth,
Settlements on other planets.
maybe even other star systems.
It raises so many questions.
About how our society and culture would evolve in such a radically different environment.
For starters, what kind of society would we build on Mars?
Yeah, would it be a utopian escape from Earth's problems?
Or would we just end up recreating the same issues in a new location?
That's the big question, isn't it?
We have this opportunity to start fresh
To learn from our mistakes?
and design a society that's more equitable, sustainable, and perhaps even more innovative.
But human nature is complex.
It's naive to think we can simply leave our baggage behind.
So it's not a guaranteed utopia just because we're on a new planet.
Not at all. Building a new society on Mars will require careful thought and planning.
We need to consider everything.
From governance and resource allocation to social structures and cultural values,
How will we make decisions?
how will we ensure fairness and justice?
How will we preserve individual freedom while also fostering a sense of community?
It's like designing a whole new civilization from scratch.
But we can't just ignore the lessons we've learned on Earth.
It's both an exciting and daunting prospect.
It is. And then there's the question of who gets to go to Mars.
And who gets left behind?
Will it be a select few based on skills, wealth, or some other criteria?
Or will there be opportunities for people from all walks of life to participate?
And those who stay on Earth, how will their lives be impacted?
Will we become even more divided?
With a Mars elite and an Earth-bound majority.
Or will this push for Mars exploration inspire positive changes here on Earth?
Driving innovation and collaboration.
These are questions we can't answer definitively right now.
But they're questions we need to be asking.
Mars exploration isn't just about science and technology.
It's about humanity's future.
The kind of world we want to create.
It also has the potential to transform our understanding of ourselves.
Absolutely.
Living on Mars would force us to adapt in ways we can't even imagine right now.
It would challenge our assumptions.
About what it means to be human, about our relationship with our environment.
And about our place in the universe.
Imagine the first child born on Mars.
What would it mean to grow up on another planet?
Looking up at a different sky?
Experiencing gravity differently.
Perhaps even evolving physically and mentally in ways we haven't anticipated.
It's mind-blowing.
A future full of wonder.
Excitement and challenges.
And it's a future that's closer than we might think.
The decisions we make today about how we explore Mars and what kind of society we envision building there will have a profound impact on the course of human history.
It's an incredible time to be alive.
To witness this unfolding chapter in our story as a species.
Who knows what incredible discoveries and transformations await us as we venture further into the cosmos.
Well, that brings our deep dive into life on Mars discoveries and future exploration to a close.
We've covered a lot of ground.
From the latest scientific findings to the mind-blowing implications of becoming a multiplanetary species.
We hope you've enjoyed the journey.
As much as we have.
If you're as fascinated by Mars exploration as we are, be sure to subscribe to Xul Podcast, shooting the reality for more deep dives into the most captivating topics out there. And let us know your thoughts on the future of Mars exploration in the comments. What excites you the most? What questions are you grappling with?
Until next time, keep shooting for the stars.